Have you ever noticed that the leaders who leave the biggest mark on us are not the ones with the loudest voices, but the ones who truly connect with people? Influence and success are never built on fear or authority alone. They grow from trust, relationships, and the courage to step into the unknown. That is exactly where Brené Brown's Dare to Lead begins. Brené Brown, a researcher and storyteller known worldwide, has spent decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. Her TED Talks have reached millions, and her books consistently shape how we think about leadership and human connection. Dare to Lead, published in 2018, continues to stand out because it reminds us that leadership is not about titles or power. It is about taking responsibility for finding potential in people and processes and having the courage to develop that potential. This book is designed as a practical guide for anyone who wants to lead with heart and impact. By listening, you will learn how vulnerability becomes a source of strength, how to build trust through consistent action, and how to create a culture where people feel safe to show up as their full selves. The reward is not just stronger teams, but also a deeper sense of purpose in your own work and life. To give you a roadmap, Dare to Lead is divided into four main parts, each with several chapters. These parts explore what it really means to rumble with vulnerability, live into your values, build trust, and rise after setbacks. Brown breaks down years of research into tools and stories that you can apply immediately, whether you lead a company, a classroom, or even within your family. So as you listen to this summary, keep in mind that leadership is not about being perfect. It is about being brave enough to show up. If you are ready to challenge yourself, grow, and transform the way you lead, you are in the right place. And if this resonates with you, don't forget to join the Leadership Code community. Like this video, share it with someone who wants to lead with courage, and subscribe for more insights that will help you unlock your leadership journey. Part 1. Rumbling with Vulnerability. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 of Dare to Lead is called The Moment and the Myths. Brené Brown starts with a bold truth. Leadership is not about having all the answers or looking strong all the time. It's about showing up, even when the outcome is uncertain. The central lesson is clear. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage in action. We've been taught to believe the opposite. Many of us grew up hearing, "Never let them see you sweat." Leaders were expected to hide emotions, avoid risk, and keep control. But Brené's research shows that's a myth. The leaders people trust and follow are the ones who are real, not the ones who pretend to be perfect. Think about this in practice. Imagine a CEO facing a crisis. The old school leader delivers a rehearsed speech, pretending everything is under control. The daring leader stands up and says, "Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. Here's how we'll figure it out together." That honesty doesn't weaken trust, it strengthens it. People would rather follow a human who's real than a polished mask. So how do we apply this in our own lives? Whether you're leading a company, running a small business, teaching a class, or raising kids, vulnerability makes you stronger, not weaker. Here's how. Admit when you don't know something. It shows honesty, not incompetence. Ask for help instead of pretending you can handle everything alone. Own your mistakes and share what you learned from them. Create space for others to take risks without fear of being shamed. Brené puts it simply, courage and comfort cannot exist together. If you want to grow as a leader, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So here's the challenge of Chapter 1. The next time you feel pressured to look perfect, pause. Take off the armor, show up as yourself. That's what it means to rumble with vulnerability, and that's where real leadership begins. Part 1. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is called The Call to Courage. Brené Brown makes a powerful point here. Courage and comfort cannot exist together. If you want to be a brave leader, you must choose courage, even when it feels deeply uncomfortable. Most of us avoid vulnerability because we're afraid of judgment, rejection, or failure. But Brené's research shows that every act of real courage requires vulnerability. Starting a business, having a tough conversation, admitting a mistake, or standing up for someone. All of these moments involve risk and uncertainty. No vulnerability, no courage. She uses the metaphor of the arena, inspired by Theodore Roosevelt. The arena is where you show up, take risks, and maybe fall flat on your face. And here's the truth. There will always be critics shouting from the sidelines. But Brené is blunt. If they're not in the arena getting knocked down too, their opinion doesn't count. Picture a modern example. Think of an entrepreneur with a bold new idea. They could stay comfortable, keep it to themselves, and avoid rejection. Or they could pitch it to investors, risk hearing no, and face criticism. Only one choice moves them forward. That's what answering the call to courage looks like. So how do you apply this lesson in your own leadership or daily life? Stop waiting to feel ready. You'll never feel ready for the big things. Start anyway. Write down the few voices that really matter. Let the rest fade into background noise. Redefine failure as evidence that you dared. Each stumble proves you had the courage to step up. Build resilience. Courage is not a one-time act. It's a practice you strengthen every day. Chapter 2 challenges us to stop hiding in comfort. The real test of leadership is stepping into the arena, risking failure, and choosing courage again and again. So here's your reflection. Where in your life are you avoiding the arena? And what would happen if you chose courage instead of comfort, just once? Part 1. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called The Armory. Brené Brown asks us to pause and notice the protective gear we put on when we feel exposed. She calls this gear our armor. The lesson is simple. The armor we use to feel safe ends up keeping us from leading with courage. Armor can look different for everyone. Some of us wear perfectionism, always trying to look flawless so no one can criticize us. Others use cynicism, acting like nothing matters so we can't be hurt. Some leaders cling to control, micromanaging everything to avoid uncertainty. The problem is, while armor shields us in the short term, it blocks trust, creativity, and connection in the long run. Picture this in a workplace. A manager insists on always having the final say in meetings. To them, it feels like control and strength, but to the team, it sends the message, your ideas don't matter. Over time, the team disengages. Innovation dies. The armor worked for the manager. It protected them from vulnerability, but it crushed the culture around them. Daring leaders take a different approach. They notice when they're armoring up, and they choose to set it down. That looks like admitting I was wrong, asking for input, or allowing others to lead. It's risky, it feels uncomfortable, but it's also the path to trust and growth. Here's how you can start removing your armor. Identify your go-to shield. Do you default to perfectionism, cynicism, or control? Replace defensiveness with curiosity. When challenged, ask, what can I learn? Instead of shutting down. Let others contribute fully. Leadership doesn't mean having all the answers. Remember, real strength isn't pretending to be invincible. It's daring to be seen. Brené reminds us that many of us built our armor years ago to survive tough experiences. But what once protected us is now holding us back. So here's the challenge. What armor do you wear most often, and what would happen if you took it off? Even for one meeting, one conversation, one decision? That's the lesson of Chapter 3. True leadership begins the moment you dare to put down the armor. Part 1. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Shame and Empathy. Brené Brown dives into one of the toughest emotions we face, shame, and shows why leaders must understand it. The main lesson is this: shame erodes trust, while empathy builds it back. Shame is the voice inside that says, I'm not enough. I don't belong. I'm a failure. Unlike guilt, which focuses on behavior, I made a mistake. Shame attacks identity. I am the mistake. When shame spreads through a team, a company, or even a family, people shut down. They stop taking risks. They hide errors instead of learning from them. Progress stalls. The antidote to shame is empathy. Empathy is not fixing or giving advice. It's listening, acknowledging, and saying, I get it. You're not alone. Empathy turns walls into bridges. Here's a simple example. Imagine an employee makes an expensive mistake. A shame-driven leader snaps, how could you mess this up? What's wrong with you? That response creates fear. The employee will cover up next time instead of speaking up. Now picture a leader who says, this hurts but mistakes happen. Let's figure out how to fix it and what we can learn. That leader still holds accountability, but also models empathy. Trust deepens. So how can you practice empathy and avoid shame in your leadership? Spot shame triggers. Notice when people go silent, defensive, or withdrawn. That's often shame at work. Shift from judgment to curiosity. Instead of, "What's wrong with you?" ask, "What happened here?" Listen fully. Don't rush to solve. Sit with people in their struggle. Give feedback the right way. Focus on behavior, not identity. Say, "This needs improvement," not, "You're a failure." Brené says it best. Shame cannot survive being spoken. It cannot survive empathy. Leaders who replace shame with empathy create cultures where people feel safe enough to try, fail, and rise again. So here's your reflection. In your team, classroom, or family, are people hiding behind shame, or are they supported by empathy? Your answer to that question shapes the culture you're building. That's the lesson of Chapter 4. Strong leaders don't weaponize shame. They use empathy to unlock trust and growth. Part 1, Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is called Curiosity and Grounded Confidence. Here, Brené Brown shows us another truth about courageous leadership. You don't need to have all the answers, but you do need to stay curious. Many leaders feel pressure to look certain, to act like they know everything. But pretending to know when you don't actually weakens trust. People see through it. Instead, Brené says, leaders who admit, "I don't know, but let's figure it out together," create trust, innovation, and stronger teams. Curiosity requires vulnerability. Asking questions means admitting you don't have it all figured out. It feels risky, but it's the very skill that drives growth. The opposite of curiosity is judgment, assuming, labeling, or shutting down ideas before they're explored. Judgment kills creativity. Curiosity sparks it. She also introduces the idea of grounded confidence. This is not false bravado or arrogance. It's the steady confidence that comes from practice and learning over time. Grounded confidence is built through skills, not titles. You don't need to know everything to be confident. You just need to know how to learn, ask, and listen. Think about a workplace example. A team is stuck on a problem. An armored leader pretends to know the solution and pushes their way through. A daring leader says, "Let's explore this together. What are we missing? What ideas do you have?" One shuts the team down, the other sparks engagement. Here's how you can practice curiosity and grounded confidence. Ask open-ended questions. Replace "Do you get it?" with "What do you think about this?" Admit when you don't know. It builds trust, not weakness. Focus on learning, not on looking smart. Encourage your team to ask questions too. Reward curiosity instead of punishing mistakes. Brené reminds us, certainty is often just armor. Curiosity is courage. And grounded confidence is what makes people want to follow you. That's the lesson of Chapter 5. Lead with curiosity, build your confidence through learning, and create space where questions drive growth. Part 2. Living into our values. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is called The Marble Jar. In this chapter, Brené Brown explains trust in the simplest way possible. Trust is built through small, consistent actions, not grand gestures. She tells a story from her daughter's classroom. The teacher kept a marble jar. Each time the students made good choices, a marble went in. When the jar was full, the class earned a reward. One day, Brené's daughter explained that friendships and trust work the same way. Every kind act, every promise kept, every moment of reliability is like putting a marble in someone's jar. Break a promise, betray a confidence, or show disrespect, and marbles spill out. This metaphor makes trust easy to understand. It's not one big thing, it's the accumulation of small moments. Remembering someone's name, showing up when you said you would, listening without interrupting. These little things create a full jar. And once the jar is full, people are willing to give you their trust in the bigger moments. Think about it in a workplace. A leader who consistently follows through, respects confidentiality, and notices the small efforts of their team slowly fills the marble jar. Over time, that trust becomes strong. But a leader who cancels meetings, takes credit for others' work, or gossips quickly empties it. Once empty, rebuilding is hard. So how do you fill marble jars in your own life? Keep even the smallest commitments. Reliability builds trust. Protect confidentiality. If someone shares something private, guard it. Show care in small gestures. Thank people. Ask about their lives. Listen fully. When you take marbles out, own it. Apologize and start rebuilding. The marble jar is a reminder that leadership trust isn't earned in one speech or one decision. It's earned in daily actions, brick by brick, marble by marble. That's the lesson of Chapter 6. Strong leaders earn trust in the smallest moments. Part 2, Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is called Braving Trust. Here, Brené Brown takes the marble jar idea a step further. She introduces a framework called BRAVING to show exactly how trust is built. The big lesson is this: trust is not a feeling, it's a set of behaviors we can practice. Braving is an acronym. B, boundaries. Respect mine, and I'll respect yours. Clear as kind. R, reliability. Do what you say you'll do again and again. A, accountability. Own mistakes, apologize, and make amends. V, vault. What I share with you stays safe. No gossip. I, integrity. Choose courage over comfort and what's right over what's easy. N, non-judgment. We can both ask for help without shame. G, generosity. Assume the best about each other's words and actions. Brené points out that trust is tested in small, everyday choices. If you break confidentiality, miss commitments, or judge others for struggling, trust drains fast. On the other hand, when you consistently respect boundaries, own your slip-ups, and assume good intent, trust grows steadily. Think of two colleagues. One always says yes, but rarely delivers. The other says, I can't take that on right now, but always follows through when they commit. The second person fills the trust jar far quicker because reliability matters more than empty promises. And here's the twist. Braving applies both ways. It's about how much you trust others and how trustworthy you are yourself. Self-trust is just as important as trust with others. So how can you use braving in your daily life? Say no when you can't commit. Boundaries build respect. Follow through on small promises. Reliability compounds. Apologize without excuses when you mess up. Keep confidences locked away. Build your vault. Check your integrity. Are your actions matching your values? That's the message of Chapter 7. Trust doesn't appear magically. It's built when we practice braving, one choice at a time. Part 2, Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is called Learning to Rise. Here, Brené Brown reminds us of a tough truth. If you're brave enough to step into the arena, you will fall. The question isn't if, it's how you'll rise after the fall. She shares the Rising Strong process, a 3-step guide for getting back up. 1. The reckoning. Recognize your emotions. Don't bury them. Name them honestly: anger, fear, disappointment, shame. 2. The rumble. Question the story you're telling yourself. For example, they ignored me because I'm not good enough. Is that true or just the first draft your brain wrote? 3. The revolution. Write a new ending. Use what you've learned to change your response and move forward stronger. Think about an entrepreneur whose product launch fails. The reckoning is admitting the frustration and embarrassment. The rumble is asking, am I really a failure, or did this strategy just not work? The revolution is applying lessons, adjusting, and trying again. That's resilience in action. Brené warns that when leaders don't know how to rise, they create cultures of fear. People stop taking risks because mistakes are punished instead of explored. But leaders who model resilience send a different message. Setbacks are part of growth. Failure is not the end. So how do you practice learning to rise? Start by naming your feelings honestly, even if it's uncomfortable. Notice the first draft stories your mind creates and test them. Share your own struggles and comebacks. It gives others permission to do the same. Build a culture where mistakes are treated as learning opportunities, not shameful failures. The lesson of Chapter 8 is this: courage guarantees you will stumble, but resilience guarantees you'll rise again. So ask yourself, when you fall, and you will, are you prepared to rise with honesty, curiosity, and courage? Part 3, Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called The Elements of Trust. Here, Brené Brown takes the braving framework and digs deeper into what trust looks like in action. The lesson is clear. Trust isn't one big thing. It's built piece by piece. Trust is fragile because it's made up of many small choices. Break one element and the whole structure starts to wobble. That's why Brené breaks it into 7 behaviors. Boundaries. Respect mine, and I'll respect yours. Clear as kind. Reliability. Do what you say you'll do again and again. Accountability. Own your mistakes, apologize, and repair. Vault. Keep confidences safe. No gossip. Integrity. Choose courage over comfort and values over quick wins. Non-judgment. We can ask for help without shame. Generosity. Assume good intent in others' words and actions. Think about a team setting. A colleague keeps every commitment, but then gossips about private conversations. Reliability is there, but the vault is broken, trust collapses, or imagine a boss who makes big promises but rarely follows through. Even if they're kind, their reliability is missing, and people lose faith. Brené also stresses self-trust. If you don't hold your own boundaries, own your mistakes, or live your values, it's hard to extend trust to others. Courageous leadership requires both, trusting yourself and practicing braving with others. So how do you apply this? Get specific about boundaries. Say no when needed and respect others' limits. Follow through on the little promises, not just the big ones. When you mess up, own it quickly. Repair trust. Guard confidences. Build your vault. Ask yourself daily, am I living my values right now? Choose generosity. When in doubt, assume the best. The lesson of Chapter 9 is simple but powerful. Trust is earned through thousands of small moments, not a single grand gesture. Part 3, Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is called Armored Leadership versus Daring Leadership. Here, Brené Brown shows us 2 very different ways of leading. The lesson is clear. Armor shuts people down. Daring leadership lifts them up. Armored leadership is built on fear. Leaders who armor up try to control everything, hide behind perfectionism, avoid tough conversations, and sometimes use shame as a motivator. On the surface, it looks strong, but underneath it creates cultures of silence, fear, and disengagement. Daring leadership looks very different. Daring leaders lead with curiosity instead of judgment, empathy instead of shame, and clarity instead of avoidance. They don't pretend to be perfect. Instead, they show up honestly, admit mistakes, and invite others into the process. This doesn't make them weak. It makes them trustworthy. Think about a team after a failed project. An armored leader might look for someone to blame, creating a culture where people stop taking risks. A daring leader gathers the team and says, "This didn't work. Let's break it down and learn from it." The choice transforms failure into growth and keeps people engaged. Brené highlights several contrasts. Armor seeks to be right. Daring seeks to learn. Armor avoids conflict. Daring steps into it with respect. Armor uses shame. Daring uses empathy and accountability. Armor hides behind cynicism. Daring leads with clarity and hope. So how do you practice daring leadership? Notice when you're armoring up. Ask yourself, am I acting from fear or courage? Replace judgment with curiosity. Ask questions before assuming. Step into hard conversations instead of avoiding them. Model progress over perfection. Celebrate learning, not just wins. Admit mistakes openly and show how you rise from them. The lesson of Chapter 10 is powerful. People don't need armored leaders who look tough but create fear. They need daring leaders who are brave enough to be real. Part 4. Learning to Rise, Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is called Rumbling Skills and Rising Strong Process. This is where Brené Brown takes everything we've learned so far and turns it into a practice. The message is clear. If you want to lead with courage, you must build the skills to have hard conversations and rise after setbacks. She introduces the idea of a rumble, an honest, messy, respectful conversation where people bring their full selves, including emotions. Most leaders avoid rumbles because they feel uncomfortable. But without them, trust erodes, problems fester, and people disengage. Brené pairs this with the Rising Strong process, a three-step method for resilience. 1. The reckoning. Recognize what you're feeling. Instead of bearing emotions, name them. I feel frustrated. I feel anxious. 2. The rumble. Question the story you're telling yourself. Our brains fill gaps with assumptions like, they don't value me. Rumbling means asking, is that true? 3. The revolution. Rewrite the story with new understanding and take different action. This is where learning turns into growth. Here's a modern example. Imagine two business partners who are frustrated with each other. One assumes, they don't respect my work. Instead of stewing in silence, they sit down and rumble. The story I'm telling myself is that you don't value my input. Is that true? That simple phrase opens space for honesty, clears up misunderstandings, and strengthens the partnership. So how can you practice rumbling and resilience? Name your emotions instead of pushing them aside. Use the phrase, the story I'm telling myself is, to challenge assumptions. Stay curious even when the conversation is tough. Choose clarity over avoidance. Unclear is unkind. Clear is kind. After setbacks, walk through the Rising Strong process. Reckon, rumble, and revolutionize. The lesson of Chapter 11 is this. Leaders don't avoid the fall, they prepare to rise. Courageous leadership requires rumbling with truth and practicing resilience, again and again. Part 4, Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is called Revolution. It's Brené Brown's way of closing the book with a challenge. Daring leadership isn't just about you, it's about changing the culture of leadership itself. She argues that the old model of leadership, built on fear, control, and perfectionism, no longer works. People don't want untouchable bosses who act like they know everything. They want human leaders who show up with courage, admit mistakes, and invest in trust. When leaders shift in this way, workplaces, schools, and even families transform. That's the revolution Brené is calling for. And here's the thing, revolutions don't start with giant leaps. They start with small acts of courage. A manager chooses honesty instead of spin. A teacher admits, I don't know, but let's figure it out. A parent responds with empathy instead of shame when their child makes a mistake. These choices may look ordinary, but multiplied over time, they create real cultural change. Think about two companies. In one, leaders hide behind armor, punish mistakes, and silence dissent. Innovation dies and trust disappears. In the other, leaders practice braving, rumble with hard truths, and create safety for risk-taking. People speak up, share ideas, and recover quickly from failure. That's not just good leadership. It's a revolution in how people work together. So how do you join this revolution? Practice courage daily. Choose honesty over comfort, even in small moments. Use the tools. Braving trust, rumbling with truth, living into your values. Model vulnerability. Show your team, students, or family what it looks like to rise after falling. Lead with empathy. Replace shame with understanding and accountability. The lesson of Chapter 12 is simple. Daring leadership is contagious. Your courage encourages others to be brave too. That ripple effect is the revolution. So here's your final reflection. Will you choose to lead with armor, or will you dare to lead and spark the change the world needs? Conclusion. We've reached the end of Brené Brown's Dare to Lead, and the takeaway is unmistakable. Leadership is not about titles, control, or perfection. It's about courage. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the foundation of trust, creativity, and connection. Shame shuts people down, but empathy opens them up. Trust is built through small, consistent actions, and true resilience comes from daring to fall and rise, again and again. These lessons matter in every part of life. Leading a team, teaching a class, raising a family, or serving your community. People don't want flawless leaders. They want leaders who are human, curious, and consistent. The challenge is to turn this from theory into practice. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Admit when you don't know and invite others to figure it out with you. Protect trust with your actions. Show up with empathy, honesty, and integrity, one choice at a time. And if this journey spoke to you, Keep walking it with us. Join the Leadership Code community here on YouTube. Like this video, share it with someone who's ready to lead with courage, and subscribe so you never miss the tools and stories that will help you grow as a leader. Remember, courage is contagious. When you show up bravely, you give others permission to do the same. And that's how real change begins.